Good morning again. This is Jacob. This is part two of Psalm 25 this morning. It's like I said in part one. I think it's my new favorite psalm, and I'm sure I'll say that about a lot of them. But this one is really just speaking to me, and it really touches my soul. So I left off in verse 8 and 9. I'd encourage you to listen to part one. But here's verse 8 and 9. Uh, Verse 8 says, "Good and upright is the Lord, therefore he instructs sinners in the way." I'm reminded in John 14:6, Jesus says, "I am the way, I am the truth, I am the life, and no one gets to the Father except by me." He instructs sinners in the way. Uh, if you're not a sinner, you don't qualify for heaven. Heaven is for sinners. The Apostle Paul was a murderer, and he was redeemed. He was reclaimed for the purposes of the kingdom, and he ended up being one of the one of the one of the authors of the Scripture. And I think people fail to remember that the Apostle Paul was at one time before he had a relationship with Jesus, he was a murderer. He murdered Christians. He murdered people. People were afraid of him after his transformation because they had heard his reputation. Um, so be encouraged. If you're a sinner and you're listening to this and you know that you're messing up or you know that you're not right with God, guess what? Heaven is for sinners, and this message, the gospel is for you and me, and we're all right. But verse 8 says, "Therefore he instructs sinners in the way." Like a loving father who has a child, he wants his child to what? Does he want his child hurting himself? No, he wants his child to do well. He wants his child to learn. He wants his child to be receptive. He wants his child to go in the way that is healthy and good and upright. And he instructs sinners in the way. A father knows. A good father should know. I think that a good father should know that his son is going to make mistakes and do things wrong, and that he needs help and guidance and assistance and correction and love and tenderness. But the growing pandemic, I think the absolute root cause of all problems we see around us is bad fathers. I think that's my perspective. I've 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 wondered often why the church parking lots are absolutely filled on Sunday mornings. People claim Christianity all the time, but yet we see so much messed up around us. We see relationships messed up and dismantled, and this, that, and the other. We see young girls craving after love and affection, and they'll find it from any young guy that they can. And the young guys who aren't taught in the way of the Lord and aren't taught to be men and aren't taught to be bold and loving and pure, and they'll go right after the young girls that are craving for attention. And we see this continually in broken down society. And I think it's just a huge pandemic on men in this land, in this world. And we need more fathers. We need fathers to recapture what it is and what it means to be a loving father, and giving people God's love through them, and not making them who they are, and raising up people to be who they are. Anyway, I see that in verse 8, how the Lord, he wants to instruct sinners. He wants to instruct people. And I think God is basically just crying out and saying, anybody, will you listen? I will instruct you. I don't want you to jump off that cliff. I don't want you to make this mistake. Will you just listen to me? And I think that's the cry of this psalm in verse 8. Verse 9, he says, he leads the humble in justice. He teaches the humble in his way. James 4:6. James 4:6 says, God is opposed, despises the proud, but gives grace to the humble. God is opposed to the proud, but gives grace to the humble. Who are the humble? Well, you can't have humility apart from Jesus Christ. False humility is all over the place, and it's still self-focused. Self-focused humility is still rooted in pride because it's still self-focused. It's to make someone feel better about themselves. But real humility, the true spirit of humility is found in Jesus Christ. And I love the second part of verse 9. It says he teaches the humble his way. You know, continually, just my own life is throughout each day is, Lord, what's your way? How would you do this? You know, because I'll mess this up. I'll do it satisfactory. I'll do it not very well. But how do you want to do it? What is your way here? How would you talk to this person? What do you want to say to this person? It's continually just, and we see in verse 15, it's continually, your eyes continually to the Lord. And those are the questions that help me personally fix my eyes on the Lord. Because I'm either full of myself, full of Jacob, or I'm full of the Lord, the Spirit of the Lord. I'm either giving people and giving this world Jacob, or I'm giving them the Lord. And so questions like that are, Lord, you teach me your way. I really want to be taught. I really want to be instructed. Show me in the way I should go. And more than that, give me a will. Give me a willingness, a willing will to follow. In verse 10, all the paths of the Lord are loving kindness and truth. All of them. All the paths of the Lord. Follow Jesus in his footsteps through the Gospels. Listen to the eyewitness accounts. See what he did. See who he healed. See what happened and transpired in humanity and in the people and the culture and everyone around him. He blessed a lot of people, and he touched a lot of lives. What he did and the life he lived and walked is it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. And his ways are loving kindness and truth. And truth hurts. Truth gets us back to reality, and we need truth. I need truth. I know pockets of my life are lived in myopia or just not adding up. I know that, and I need truth. We need truth, and the paths of the Lord are loving kindness. The Lord is far different than I think we all picture him. Every time I learn a little bit more about him and some other believer, some other person, because we're all made in his image. We see that in Genesis. One more thing in Genesis 1 I learned the other day is it says, let us make man in our image. Let us, that's another reference to the Trinity. So this false lie that the Trinity doesn't exist, that God is not the God of the Trinity, the three persons, Genesis 1 dismantles it again. So does Isaiah 6. It says, holy, holy, holy. That's three holies. That's the Trinity, three holies. And he also says, who will go for us? That's plural. No one ever says that. Who would go for me? It doesn't say who will go for me. It says who will go for us. And in Genesis 1 it says, let us do this, this, this. Let us make creatures. Let us make creation. Let us make man in our likeness of our image. That's plural. Another reference to the Trinity. And I'm glad to proclaim that, because this bogus lie that God isn't a God of three persons, that's a bunch of junk. So anyway, and we need to continually come back to the truth, because the truth will set us free. And we know the truth is true because truth doesn't change. It's not like a shifting sand. It's not like a Oregon coast sand dune. Verse 11, for your name's sake, O Lord, pardon my iniquity, for it is great. We saw in Psalm 23, it says, guide me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. He guides me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. God's name is at stake in his kids, and he wants us acting in line and representing him as true witnesses, and hallowing his name. Hallowed be thy name. Be who you are in my life. Let me be who I am in your kingdom. For your name's sake, pardon my iniquities, for it is great. I can also say that as well. I don't know if it's to the extent of David, but it doesn't matter. I know that my iniquities are great daily. I fail daily, and like David prays in the previous Psalms, Psalm 19, it says, keep back your servant from presumptuous sins. Let them not rule over me. I pray, that's my prayer in my life too. Keep me back from presumptuous sins. I've made presumptuous sins, but I don't want to do that anymore. The consequence engine for sin is just sometimes hard to live with and hard to bear, and the memory of them. So keep me back from presumptuous sins. Pardon my iniquity, for it is great. I can identify with David here. Who is the man that fears the Lord? We know that fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. In Proverbs 9:10 it says, but who is the man who fears the Lord? He will instruct him in the way he should choose. I love that. Should choose. The Lord, I know he instructs me in the way different times, and that I should choose. Do I choose all the time? Absolutely not. Do I wish I would? Sure. Yeah. His ways are right and true, and they're good for me and humanity. And my way, there is a way that seems right to a man, but in the end it leads to death. There is a way there is a way that seems right to a man, but in the end it leads to death. And the Lord is the way. Jesus says, I am the way. So press into Jesus. His soul will abide in prosperity, and his descendants will inherit the land. Blessed are the meek, for they will shall inherit the earth. Sorry, there's a squirrel running outside. I was distracted. His soul will abide in prosperity. I'm reminded in Psalm chapter 1. It says, let me turn there really quick. Really quick. Psalm 1:3. He will be like a tree firmly planted by streams of water, which yields its fruit in its season, and its leaf does not wither, and whatever he does, he prospers. Is this prosperity gospel? Absolutely not. Was Jesus a wealthy billionaire on earth? Absolutely not. He died. He had nothing. So no, it's whatever he does prospers. Well, I can testify that things I've set my hand to, God has prospered them, multiplied them, blessed them, helped them grow. The God is a giver of life, and I can testify to that. And things I put my hand to, God's like, okay. Just like a young child going to a dad. Hey, Dad, can I play soccer? I want to play on the soccer team. Okay, son. Well, let's get you some soccer cleats and shin guards and get you geared up in a soccer ball. Let's do this, So I kind of see that. Verse 14, the secret of the Lord is for those who fear him, and he will make them know his covenant. The secret of the Lord, the intimacy with the Lord, the counsel of the Lord is for those who fear him, not those who will hear his words and go the other way. My eyes are continually toward the Lord, for he will pluck my feet out of the net. David knows with confidence the Lord will save him from any traps that he gets into. And he probably knows that, obviously sees all the bunkers and all the water hazards and all the sand traps on the course that he's played. Turn to me and be gracious to me, for I am lonely, afflicted. Kings are lonely. I'll leave it at that today. Be blessed. This is Jacob.